about you, but I had the most productive quarantine. Like seriously, I got so much done that I'd been putting off pre-Rona. I baked a ton of bread, started a massive garden, and I built a house. You may be wondering where a girl like me found the time or the energy to do so much. The answer is simple: Minecraft. Over the past couple of months, you've probably heard 1,000 variations of that same story. How great everyone was doing during quarantine, whether they were getting gripped or learning a new language. But why was everyone so adamant about sharing that? As people dealt with the intense emotions of putting their lives on hold for months at a time, many people turned to appearing productive instead of coping. And this productivity surge has led to an increase of toxic positivity. Many people don't know about or fully understand what toxic positivity is, what toxic positivity is, even though it has an immense effect on our daily lives. The CDC study found that 40% of American adults in 2020 struggled with mental health, and toxic positivity played a role in that. To fully understand this pandemic of positivity, you need to first know what toxic positivity is and how it spreads. Second, its effects on yourself and others. And third, steps you can take to avoid it. Now, toxic and positivity don't really seem like they should go together, but in reality they do. Seymour Quintero, a respected psychologist, defines toxic positivity as an ineffective overgeneralization of a happy and optimistic state across all situations. Now, being positive isn't a bad thing, but forcing positivity is. And this is a major problem amongst the self-help industry. The self-help industry is worth around $11 billion and is expected to grow to $13 billion by 2022, according to Market Data Enterprises estimates. Now, the term self-help industry is a bit of a misnomer, as the industry's goal isn't to help people, but is instead to turn a profit. And the industry thrives off toxic positivity through messages about grit. To Martha Stewart's ghostwriter, grit is all you need to get through any tough situation. Sadly, this is rarely the case. Schools are also a huge perpetrator to that issue. Schools teach that by just having grit, you can accomplish great things. But again, research has shown us otherwise. Vicky Verzuski writes that forcing grit can actually restrain students by making them feel as though they aren't meeting predetermined goals. Grit tends to give people a sense of shame for not being able to handle hard situations by themselves. Which then leads to emotional suppression to seem like you can handle things. The same message has been pushed by something far more insidious than Martha Stewart: Instagram influencers. One influencer, Naomi Davis, has really put a face to this issue. She was able to take her entire family of 5 on a cross-country RV trip, all chronicled on Instagram, of course, during quarantine. According to Vox, her fan base was less than content with the quarantine content. As many Americans were stressed out by financial troubles and health concerns, anyone being able to go on a vacation like that caused a lot of anxiety. If she's only posting cute, happy photos, shouldn't I be too? Influencers push toxic positivity by only showing the positive. Not everyone Not everyone can escape our current situation, but seeing other people happy makes seeing them happy makes many feel like they should be happy as well. Most people know this is unrealistic for the vast majority, but when you are constantly bombarded with feeds of the Kardashians' mansions, yacht getaways, and every Californian's perfect view of the beach, it becomes hard to internalize that this isn't the norm. Parents tell children all the time, if they just ignore the issue, it will go away. Whether it's a scraped knee or a bully at school. But this type of long-term emotional suppression can have unintended consequences. According to James Gross in a study on emotional suppression, we have to work very hard to shut an emotion down once it is up and running. And in the process, we often get more agitated and tense. As toxic positivity is really just suppressing negative emotions, it only puts you in a worse emotional state than when you began. Suppressing emotions may seem like a good idea in the moment, but in the long term, it can have many consequences. A study by Konstantin Lukin has found that unresolved emotions can quickly turn into anxiety and depression. Ignoring emotions makes them loom in your subconscious, and when you have a constant inner negativity, it will end up manifesting into your daily life. It will do this by making you feel like you have to constantly be looking for ways to have positive interactions with those around you. And this can be incredibly draining when it's the only thing you're thinking about. And being toxically positive also has an effect on those around you. One of the worst effects, according to Jamie Long, is an increased feeling of shame. By invalidating others' emotions through toxic positivity, you give them a feeling of shame for having them in the first place. The energy source of shame is silency, secrecy, and judgment, writes Brené Brown. Being toxic to others will cause them to feel like their emotions aren't valid. This causes the same effect as if you were toxically positive to yourself, with the added effect of harming a relationship with a loved one. Eventually, by associating shame with other negative emotions, such as sadness, the issue only gets worse. It becomes a cycle of shame and sadness becoming more and more consuming. Well, everything I've said I've done over quarantine was really in Minecraft. I too have been toxically positive during these unprecedented times. It can be hard to avoid being toxically positive on social media, especially since being toxically positive is really many people's way of trying to reassure to themselves that they're doing okay. Being toxically positive is really common, whether you know about it or not. But realizing that it is a problem and taking steps to correct it is good for your own mental health and for everyone around you. The first step you can take to limit toxic positivity is to Marie Kondo your social media. Unfollow accounts that don't spark joy while continuing to interact with ones that do, using social media as a tool for connection instead of comparison. The next step is to stop invalidating your own emotions and achievements. If all you've done in your spare time is bake pixelated bread and upgrade a Minecraft fort, that's okay if you're proud of it. Don't let comparison to others be the thief of your own joy. Toxic positivity is probably something you don't recognize in your daily life. But by now knowing what it is, its effects on yourself and others, and steps you can take to avoid it, you too can help end this epidemic of good vibes only and usher in an age of accepting emotions, good or bad.